Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. This is episode 142. I'm with Dr. Mike Wahl. And before I talk to Dr. Mike Wahl, who's actually a professor of physiology at University of University of Newfoundland, or MUN, we call it here. But before I talk to him, I will introduce my sponsor, Headshake Health. Headshake Health bridges gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. To organizations like Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada rely on HEDGEC to improve communication and optimize care. Visit hedgehealth.com for more. I'm rushed to that, but I just got up from swimming, so want something to eat and eating better, something to drink. And I'll let Dr. McWall. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
This is awesome. And Mike McWall is in North just an intro. Formerly, he's going to be the guest speaker at the NLBIA, the Newfoundland Labrador Brain Association dinner on February 10th. So that's exciting. And I would have asked Mike McWall to be on a podcast anyway, but since he's being on the going to be guest speaker at our dinner, I figured I'd have him on now before we run out of tickets or before we run out of time to sell tickets. Very much the point. But first, as I said, Dr. Wahl is a professor of physiology, mostly human physiology and exercise and stuff at University of Memorial University of Newfoundland in the Faculty of Medicine. So, but I will get him to explain it more thoroughly and more thoroughly than me. So, thank you so much again.
Yeah, no problem at all. That's great. No, it's really nice to be here. Like you said, I'm fortunate that every day I get to go to school in the way that I get to learn. So I teach a lot of physiology. I taught a lot of wellness. I came from the private sector, so I used to work with everything from athletes to oil and gas workers, and sort of seeing the whole gauntlet of injuries and health. And so hopefully we can have a nice conversation about all that stuff today. If I can share some of that, that'd be great.
Definitely, that'd be awesome because I was reading your thing about the holistic approach to health, really. Just I mean to be very general about it, but that's kind of what I've been hearing about, and we've been kind of pushing for the Brain Association, but me just the idea of just take care of your. I mean, your brain is obviously injured, but your brain is part of your whole body, and although it runs maybe the most important part of your body, it also needs to recover the proper recovery. You need to actually be able to use all parts of your body and or not all parts. If you can't. But I mean, to be able to feel healthy, feel fit, like not have any hindrance that's untoward. That's not really just because of the accident or because of any trauma. So Dr. Rock, do you talk about just the holistic approach to? I guess I was going to say brain injury, but just health in general, and because you want to talk brain injury as well, but just that your approach to.
Yeah, I think it's you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's the fact that when you are dealing with something that's health related, which is inevitable for all of us,
Yeah.
it's the healthier you are, the easier it is for you to be able to deal with that, right? So if there's things that we can do to keep us strong and have more resilience, that's all stuff that's going to make a big difference in the future for us because ultimately, 95 or 96% of people, I think, have one medical condition or another at one time or another. So, we're
Yeah.
all facing different struggles. So I've always been a bit of a realist in the fact that most of us aren't going to win Mr. Olympia or go to the Olympics,
That's
and win the 100-meter dash. But a lot of us could be better. And if we can be
yeah.
better, that's going to improve our quality of life. And I mean, what more is there to life than having a good quality of it, enjoying the
Yes,
ride, right?
exactly. And yeah, because you did a lot of I know you had a gym here for a bit, and
Yeah.
you also you teach just basically wellness to like I said to the private sector to help
hmm
for other big industries. So what do you think is most what do you think is it well, first of all, is there a universal fitness that you aim for, or a level of I guess bodily competence? I just made that term up, so I
Yeah.
know
No, I
that.
know what you mean, though.
Yeah,
I mean, is there a level that's considered good
yeah,
enough,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the whole point. I think that one of the things I think I've learned, so if I was working with an athlete or if I was working with general population or even one of my students, I think that the biggest gap that exists is we don't know that much about health. We're not
Yeah.
educated. That's why shows like yours are so
Oh,
important to bring people, the education they need to be able to understand it. And that's why we do our radio show on VOCM. Ultimately, there's a level that we all need to maintain, and according to the medical standards, that means we're not sick. But I like to think about it as being like, how good can we be before those habits start to make us unhealthy in other ways? So, in other words, people that obsess about their health tend not to be healthy in
yeah,
certain ways because they don't have
yeah.
balance, they don't have friends, social, all these other things. And so I like to strive for that. What am I willing to give up? What am I willing to do? And will that make me happy with my health status at this point? And so that took a long time for me because I came from a world that was all high performance and being perfect, but that's not
Yeah.
sustainable or realistic for 99% of us. So I think that's what it is. I think it's a personal thing, but I think it's that fine line between doing enough but not too much because it starts stealing from other aspects of wellness. Because wellness just isn't physical. It's so many characteristics of it.
And just one area. So if you're like 100% fit physically, not 100%, but nobody can be 100% fit in any category. But if you're say really fit physically and just average or less than good mentally, then that doesn't even out to just being like 70% whatever. It doesn't even out at all. There's no equalization between mental and physical and social and biopsychosocial. It's one thing I've learned when trying to
Yeah,
learn. But
agreed.
yeah. So because I know do you recommend people focus on well, not say I know you don't recommend they focus on there, but obviously depending on the situation. But if you were advising somebody just to get moving, I guess is that your
Hmm.
main goal? No, not goal, but
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think that there's like three main areas I'd look at. Okay. So I would
yeah.
say physical activity is where I started because when I started wellness, I'm pretty old now. I'm 44, not saying that's old. So
Oh,
anybody listening, you know,
I'm almost 40. I'm almost 43. So
yeah. So we're not
yeah,
20 anymore. But
no,
when I first started out in the field over 25 years ago, it was all about physical activity. That's everything. It was exercise, exercise.
yeah,
And then it was about restrictive dieting. So diet and exercise were obviously a huge part of something I was trained on and I promote with people. But people forget the word diet is supposed to mean a way of eating, not a temporary way of eating. It's supposed to be a chronic way of eating.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's a big part. But then mental health has creeped into it. And because it was under the radar because no one wanted to talk about it, it's too much stigma.
right,
And so mental health is another thing. But I think they all go hand in hand. The foods we eat, it dictate our mental health and they dictate our physical health. Our physical health makes us motivated to eat the right foods, but also helps our mental health. And mental health allows us to deal with things like food addictions and being able to commit to exercise or feel the good feelings that come with it. So those would be my three areas: physical health, diet or nutrition, and mental health. And those would be the big things. And then, of course, they help you be resistant against anything you face, whether that be brain injury or cancer or whatever situation you're facing for health.
right. It's actually I was reading your bio on both your websites, your Wahl show, which is on VSM and TV, which is the local stations if you're not from Newfoundland listening, but if you are, check it out, and or you can check out probably VSM online too. So
Yeah.
and it's podcast as well. So podcast is just ever so. But I was reading your bio and I was gonna ask you. I was thinking, well, what about exactly am I gonna ask you about? But I was gonna ask you about like what do you recommend for some resume brain trip? What should they eat or how should they
Mm.
exercise? But I'm listening to you now. That's probably that's I'm sorry, dumb question is probably not the way to phrase it, but it's maybe not the best question. It's not totally applicable stuff. It should be more about just how can you make yourself feel better, but you
Hmm.
don't know because you can't see you. Somebody has a brain injury. There's many different faces of it, or any injury. There's many different aspects of it. So,
Well,
would you?
but you're kind of right on that though. I mean, jump in on that real quick. Is
Yeah,
that
Jesus.
your mind, your brain and your muscles are connected,
Yeah,
right? And so
exactly.
I used to deal with people with brain injuries, but I also dealt with people with neurological disorders like Parkinson's and MS. And
Right.
so the stronger the connection between your brain and your muscles from physical activity, or because you're eating the right building supplies, because you're eating healthy foods, going to build a strong body. And
Mhm.
the better you are before something traumatic happens, like an injury or an illness, the more likely you are to be able to recover more, participate in your rehabilitation. And so that mind muscle connection, that's really relevant for brain injury, because if there's any sort of uh, break in that connection, but there's still some aspect of it, well, it's better to hear a little bit of a really loud concert than hear a little bit of a
Yeah,
really quiet song. And
yeah.
so the way I always looked at those situations was having a strong body and a strong connection will help with those things, especially in brain injury, because we did see quite a bit of that with athletes or motor vehicle accidents.
That's actually kind of toot my own horn, but like when I was injured, I was 23 and I was doing my master's degree and I was doing triathlon. I just finished, well, not finished, but paused after 9 years, no, for 8 years, or maybe anyway, a while, long, like 8 or 9 years of water polo. So, and I was doing triathlon then. But summer before I had bike across Canada, so I was in really good shape, and I was best physically that I've ever been. Like that morning, the best my best shape of my life was a minute before or a second before, millisecond before I was injured, and
Yeah.
that obviously helped me a big time with my physical recovery because my accident was, even though I'm not nor near where I would like to be, but not nowhere near. I'm getting better. It's hard to say nowhere near because I used to always say that, but I am getting. I'm happy where I am now. And I'm getting better, and that's what I'm happy doing. And but I mean, but being physically, I was able to being so physically fit and muscle, mind, body, brain connection. That my when my physio said do this or move this muscle, I could understand those. Yeah, do this muscle, this, and just and I really just and I was healthy. I mean, I was 23, so I wasn't like
Yeah.
I wasn't as like devout as a triathlete as a lot of people in BC were.
Yeah.
Their health, their nutrition was ridiculous. But so I don't know, I was
Mhm.
just university, so it's, but
Yeah.
but I mean, just that aspect of being able to understand, like, really, as you say, participate in your own rehabilitation, in your own physical rehabilitation, not just listen to somebody say you should move more. You should put this foot here and put this foot here and do the move your arm like this, and just know that that's a general idea. To have
Mhm.
a sorry.
I was gonna say, but can you imagine how hard that rehab would have been if you hadn't have been so physically literate? You were a
Yeah,
high level athlete, so you knew about your body, you knew how to move things. But imagine somebody who's never done any exercise, never trained, and then they're faced with that huge challenge of physically rehabilitating. So that's what I'm saying. Exactly your case. Like that
yeah,
probably aided you so much and gave you something to
yeah.
focus on because you felt like you had some aspect of power over it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. And actually, just what you're saying is just like the amount of people who are injured to see, and just there's many ways in brain injury. So anyway, whether it's a stroke or a motor vehicle accident or something just flying randomly in your head. And so would you recommend people or tell people just to be in general as in they're living life so they can, if something bad happens to them, they're may not necessarily that not don't need to be in peak shape or the best mental health of their life, like they can't control that necessarily, but just be aware, be in a good situation. So would you do you have a plan for people, like idea?
Yeah. I think you said it again, you said it really well, in the fact that, like, you might not have to be in the best shape of your life, like, you were at the best shape of your life right before your accident occurred, but you wouldn't wanna be in the worst shape of your life.
Yeah, I
You know what
know.
I mean? And because that
Exactly.
would be a really big it's like going up a mountain with a bag of rocks on your back,
Yeah,
and I think that the plan for people, I mean, when it comes to taking care of themselves, it's like anything in life, getting the right advice. Like, if I'm gonna plumb a house, I call a plumber. I'm going to wire a house, I call an electrician. I don't know why people think that their body is any less complicated than their cars, but they wouldn't replace the brakes on their car, but they can go to the gym on their own. So I
exactly.
always say, for all people should have some guidance on what they should be doing, what fits in their lifestyle. But in particular, if somebody's had an injury, particular brain injury, seeking out those experts and then having a plan that's formulated, people that know how to give you what you need to rehab, but then also committing to doing your own side. I mean, how much work did you have to do to train outside of those occasional physio
Yeah.
appointments? I'm sure you're having physio regular, but like in
Well,
general, a lot of work comes at home, right?
yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was inpatient for a while, so I didn't really do much. But when I was outpatient, yeah, I was swimming and I was really going for a walk, so I couldn't really walk. Those I was starting to do, so I could only walk briefly. But that was like, yeah, the same thing. Like, and mostly it's getting sleep and not eating like trash. I mean, I was still there in my early 20s, so I wasn't like I wasn't like eating the best ever. No, I'm not saying no. People now maybe in 20s now they're eating better because listening to like podcasts about nutrition, like
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But I mean, but when I was like, I wasn't, and yeah, it was just so important just to be active where you can and just treat your body correctly, like right. And I wasn't doing anything crazy. That was messing up my mind. So I wasn't like going out drinking and or like
Mm-hmm.
getting into fights and like getting arguments a lot. That's a lot of my personality.
Yeah,
That's will be stuck with me that I'm not a confrontational person,
that's good.
yeah, so that helped. I mean, so and actually, I was gonna ask you, I'm also an SP, which is a standardized patient,
Yes.
and at my med school. So I see a lot of same students that Mike sees, but I don't I don't see them as a professor. I see them as a patient. They have to diagnose and take my vitals necessarily, but like so.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you because I think those SPs teach the students an awful lot because they give them the real life experience and they get to hear a lot more. That's more valuable a lot of the time than a slide on a PowerPoint presentation. So don't discount your contribution on that one.
Well, thank you. They're all always very complimentary of like thanking any of us so much for doing this. But so what do you say to try to get across? I mean, obviously you mentioned a course, the way the course is, but what course is okay? Well, what courses do you teach at Med School?
Yeah. So I do lots of different ones. It's funny. I came from a different background. So if you know any professors, a lot of professors have like one area that they really experts in.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily like that. I came from a kinesiology background, then I did epidemiology, and in epidemiology I did some endocrinology, like all these ologies. And anyway, I sort of learned a lot about a lot of different subjects, but I'm not the expert like a lot of people will be in one. So what I do is I teach a lot of the first and second year physiology to give them the basics and the fundamentals of it all. So when they go talk to the heart surgeon, they understand the anatomy or the physiology, or they go and they meet with patients. So I teach everything from health and safety to the cardiovascular system to diabetes. And I do a lot of the anatomy programs as well. So it's super fun. Every day I'm learning something new and I get to see the students a lot. So I get to spend a lot of time with the first and second years. So it's nice to see them grow and become the next generation of physicians, right?
Yeah, no, it's fun. Like being a center agent. I mean, it's fun to see like these like students come in different levels, and not totally different levels, so they're all prepared for coming into season. They know what they do, and they just their knowledge kind of usually comes from, well, right now I guess first and second year they comes from the books and stuff, but like their tutors who are also always just profs or always profs or doctors, both think it's the same thing, and that's cool. But yeah, and they have more like in life experience to say like, oh, I had a patient who did this, or a patient did this, or maybe even I don't remember if I've ever had anyone say, oh no, I think if it's certain students say like, my aunt had this, or my uncle had this, or my grandfather did this, so I recognize this. So what part of the social history community is it's important to say to fitness, to say to look at your not necessarily your evaluation, but like your friends or your family or even just peers close to you that it's important for just general fitness for you recognizing that, for not you, but like one recognizing that they should get out and be healthy and try to. And so, what aspect of that is part of your
I know
idea
exactly.
of yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. So like in other words, like why is it important for people outside of just yourself to be healthy? So like, your family, for example,
Yeah,
right? Like when I think about like the people that I learned a lot about wellness for was two real audiences that really kind of taught me a lot. First was that when we first started our gym, which thanks for remembering that, by the way. It was acquired by TELUS a few years ago, but remember back in the day, we were downtown and we
nice.
had one of the first personal training businesses,
Yeah,
and
nice.
a lot of business people came in and they were busy, right? But they always found time to exercise. And
Yeah,
so for them, it was about finding that balance in their life. And it allowed them to be better at work. It allowed them to have a period of recreation. So I was really fortunate. Every time somebody
yeah,
came into our gym, they were having an hour off from work while
yeah.
I was working. So
Yeah, they were happy to talk to you.
yeah, it was easy. So
Yeah,
they taught me a lot about the importance of balance because the highest performing business people were always the people that or not always, but a lot of the time they prioritized health, and that made them better. So that was the lesson I thought was important. The second thing, and to deal with their stress in day to day. And then the second thing was when I went to the offshore and worked in heavy industry.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like an athlete trains before they go off like to their season of sport. So
yeah,
these guys have to take care, guys and gals have to take care of themselves to go and do these physical jobs, because if they're not in shape, then their body, which is their livelihood,
yeah,
is going to break on them, or even worse, they could hurt themselves in a bad accident because they're not quick enough to get out of the way, or their balance isn't good, or they're not strong enough to do this task. And so those two populations taught me an awful lot of why is it important to other people, the people you work with, the people you live with,
yeah,
the people, and really that's one of the main reasons, because ultimately we don't want to self-impose challenges on ourselves that is going to make life harder for people we love, right? And so I have no, if I get diagnosed, my father had pancreatic cancer, and that was a really tough situation, but like ultimately you can't control some of that stuff. Or you can reduce your risk, but if it happens, it happens. But if I gave myself something like high blood pressure because I wasn't taking care of myself and I never
yeah.
exercised and my stress levels up and I ate a lot of salt, well, that's a little harder for me to accept. So I
Yeah.
think that that's the real thing, is like we get given the cards we're dealt, but try not to add any more jokers into the hand if you don't need to.
No, exactly. No, I mean, just to be a little side here, but like my dad died in 2015 of colon cancer
Mm,
after he was first diagnosed in 91. Anyway, so no, I got it after he died. I got it in 2017, and I had chemo and all stuff. So that was surgery. That was tough, but I didn't go. I haven't been drinking and not that or like separating off the university, drank a bit more than I maybe should have, but like I was never. I'm not like a. It was never a major issue, but I just don't. And beef, I just stuck on my diet. So and my sister has the same gene because we both got tested,
mm-hmm.
genetically tested. So we both have the same gene that this is Lynch syndrome, by the way. So if anyone's curious about that, Lynch syndrome, just if you have that gene, then just be careful and take care of your gut health. Anyway, even if you don't have that gene, to do it just because it feels good. But yeah, but like a beef and like pork, like so, just I'm really down on my not down to say down natally, or just I haven't had much. I don't have much beef or anything like
Yeah,
sugar, like excessively, just to stay healthy. But
a little harder on your body. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's about hard on my body, but that's kind of actually. I want to ask you one more side there, but the people offshore, like, so what did this tell you? Not brain injury or anything related, but just like what would they do as they were going out to burning it? What
Yeah.
would they do? What kind of work do they do to physically do?
Yeah. So, we used to go out there, and so we used to call them industrial athletes. So it
Yeah,
depends on the job. Some people sit out there in a chair all day long, right? And
yeah,
are
right.
very
Yeah,
sedentary. And
yeah,
then they got unlimited food waiting at the
yeah,
cafeteria for them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then there's some people that are working their guts out offshore, and they're working physical jobs all day long. And so
What are they? What are the physical job? What are the physical jobs? They gotta lift like
Oh, wrenches and bags of
Oh,
what's called mud for drilling fluids, and there was people even moving groceries in. Imagine moving in groceries for
yeah,
150 people. That's a lot of
we're
groceries. Yeah,
hungry.
yeah. So, there was so much lifting and moving, and it became really important. I like the example of these guys because they had to be healthier and reduce the risk as much as they could. And that's what we were out there to try and do, was because if you did have a heart attack or you did have a medical emergency, you
Yeah,
were a long way away from home, and you may or may not be able to get a chopper because of the weather. And we all know
yeah,
how bad the
that's
weather
true.
is.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of risk for that, but there's lessons to be learned from that. But you know what? The thing is, no matter what people are doing, no matter who they are, we're all people, right? And so the risk factors are common depending on whatever our job is. And it was just a way for us to, it was an interesting way to be able to frame health around what was important to them, which was their job. But I kind of took that lesson from there and saw how you just have to make health relevant to people. So
Yeah,
if it's somebody who has a condition of some sort, well, you make it relevant to them. But if it's not relevant to people, they just aren't going to pay attention, which is why your podcast, for example, is relevant to your audience, right?
yeah, yeah. It seems to be like that. So I get a lot of people who say like, "Yeah, just there's I was just had a concussion. What should I do?" Is all this, but I can't. I'm loath to tell them what to do because I don't know the whole situation. Like I said, people, there's people, so I can't tell you what to do. They don't know you. I mean, like, so yeah. And I'm kind of around here, but so what can we expect from you for your talk say on next Friday, the February 10th? So what kind of thing would you do? Not to preview your talk totally, but like I
Yeah.
don't want to do it now. But what general areas do you think you'll talk about?
I think some of the things we talked about today about making sure that we're as good as we can be in case the unexpected ever rears its head. I think
Yeah,
that's an important message for people. I think that, again, regardless of brain injury to any condition to completely health, pure, amazing health,
yeah,
people still need to learn about why is it important that we exercise for the regular person? What foods can we eat to build a stronger body? And then how do we take care of our mental health? And that's a lot of stuff. So I'm going to
yeah.
talk a little bit about each one of those three pillars, and then the relevance of why is it important for everybody. And I think that hopefully will resonate with the people that are there.
I think so. I know I for one am looking forward to it. So yeah, so thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again on well your podcast, but also on the at the dinner dance on February 10th
I
at the
love it.
Legion. And so call Cassandra or email info@nlbia.ca to pick up tickets to hear Mike Wahl speak about brain, not say just brain health, but health in general and mental health and keeping fit and why it's good to do that. So I would just like to thank Mike for doing this podcast and talk to you guys again soon. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Wicked. Okay.
All right.
That's great. So you stop the recording, and then I'm